Endgame might be one of the most anticipated films of all time. It's been 11 years in the making, and it all leads to this final film for many of the characters. In those 11 years, there have been a staggering 21 films, Endgame being the 22nd. In those 21 films, there have been so many moments, many of which led us to this game-changing movie. In this video, I'm going to look throughout all of the MCU and pick 6 moments that will play a big part in Endgame. It will be in no particular order, and a lot of this is of course speculation as the film has not come out yet. You might disagree with some of what I say, and that's fine, but let's try to keep the comments positive.
Right, well done.
I guess this could be considered a countdown video, but it could also be a bit of a trailer breakdown for all 3 of the trailers that have been released. But either way, let's go over 6 MCU moments that will play a big part in Endgame. I should warn you that there will be many spoilers for the MCU films, and as I'm speculating on Endgame, there might be some spoilers there too, but who knows, I could be way off on my predictions. Only time will tell. Now that that's out of the way, let's get started.
You may regret that. He brought you face to face with the master of the mystic arts.
Doctor Strange giving Thanos the Time Stone. We saw Doctor Strange get this stone in his solo film back in 2016. It was the heart of his power and what he used to save the world from Dormammu. Strange and Wong swore an oath to protect the stone, but Strange did use it in combat during Infinity War and had it on him during the events of the film.
You might want to put that Time Stone in your back pocket, Doc.
You might want to use it.
When Strange arrived on the planet Titan with Stark, Peter Parker, and later a few of the Guardians, Strange used the stone to go forward in time to view over 14 million alternate futures to see all of the possible outcomes of the coming conflict. He realized that they would lose every single time except for one outcome. Later on, Tony was shocked and disappointed when Strange gave Thanos the stone to spare him.
Spare his life, and I will give you the stone.
Tony told him not to do it, and after he did, Tony asked him why. Strange did not answer his question, but simply said,
"We're in the Endgame now."
This of course leads us right to Endgame, Strange saying the title of the movie, basically meaning that by giving him the stone, this will lead us into the final film and the final fight for many of the Avengers. When Strange watches his allies float away into dust, he does not seem surprised, but rather as if he knew it was coming. Right before the same thing happened to him, he told Stark that there was no other way.
Tony, there was no other way.
Strange is the only person that knows what's to come in Endgame because he saw it when he looked into the future. He saw the outcome where he knew that they would win, and he knew he had to give him the stone in order for that outcome to move forward in Endgame.
I got on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s radar in a bad way. Agent Barton was sent to kill me. He made a different call.
Clint, aka Hawkeye, saving Natasha, aka Black Widow. Now, this one was off screen, but we got several mentions of it throughout the many films, specifically in the Avengers. Clint was sent on a mission by S.H.I.E.L.D. to track down and kill an assassin codenamed Black Widow. However, when he tracked her down, instead of killing her, he realized that she was a good person and recruited her to S.H.I.E.L.D. The two of course grew very close, and they formed the ultimate partnership, never failing any mission that they were part of together. At this time, Clint had a wife and kids, so he and Natasha could not be together, but they always had a close connection, and Scarlett Johansson, who plays Black Widow, even mentioned that she had an arrow necklace to hint at her and Clint's relationship. This brings us to Infinity War and Endgame. From the looks of it, when Thanos snapped his fingers to erase half the universe, Thanos erased Clint's family. So far, they've teased that he will take on the mantle of Ronin, who in the comics is an assassin. In the comics, Clint takes on this identity after the events of Civil War, the comic, not the movie. In the movies, it seems as though Clint went rogue, devastated by his family's deaths, and became this assassin that they've teased. In the trailers, we see him killing someone, standing over his victim. We see that his arm is covered in tattoos, which is new, and clearly he's been through a lot since we last saw him. When he stands over his victim's body, we hear a voiceover of Cap saying,
We lost a part of ourselves.
So from the looks of it, he really has gone bad. In the trailers, it looks like Clint and Natasha's relationship is taken to the next level, and I think that that's what's going to bring Clint back to the light. He looks utterly shocked, excited, confused, and every other emotion when he's reunited with Natasha, and we see the two hold hands. There are a few other moments in the trailers when they seem to get close, and this is not the first time we've seen this. We saw this in the first Avengers movie all the way back in 2012. Clint saving Natasha all those years ago will play a big part in Endgame because I think it's her turn to save him. And on top of that, they could very possibly have a romantic relationship develop during this film.
And if you died, I feel like that's on me.
Tony recruiting Peter Parker. We were introduced to the MCU's version of Spider-Man in Civil War when Tony recruited him to join his side against Cap. Over the years, we've seen Tony go back and forth on whether it was a good idea to recruit him or whether it was a bad idea and if he should take it all back.
Okay, it's not working out. I'm gonna need the suit back.
During Infinity War, when Tony was blasted into space, he did not want Peter on the ship, but Peter of course found a way on.
Now I'm here in space.
Yeah, right where I didn't want you to be.
When Thanos snapped his fingers, Peter was one of those that flew away into dust, and probably the most emotional send-off of all the deaths.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go, sir. Please. Please, I don't want to go.
We know that Tony immediately blamed himself. You can just see it on his face. He's done this before in Civil War. He blamed himself for a child's death after his mother confronted him, which he took hard.
Who's going to avenge my son, Stark? He's dead, and I blame you.
Because he was the one to recruit Peter, Stark is going to try that much harder to bring him back, and this could even drive him to sacrifice himself to save Peter. In the Endgame trailer, we saw him pull out a picture of him and Peter, and he's clearly upset about losing him, probably more so than anyone else they lost. The moment that Stark recruited Peter in Civil War is a moment that will drastically alter the choices and decisions that Tony makes in Endgame.
You know how to fly this thing?
We'll see.
That's a yes or no question.
Yes.
Fury meeting Captain Marvel. The most recent film to come out before Endgame was Captain Marvel, but this film took place many years before most of the events in the MCU, as it's based in the 90s. When Fury met Captain Marvel, it changed his whole outlook on life, now believing in aliens, losing his eye and forcing him to wear an eye patch for the rest of his life, and most importantly, seeing how much power Captain Marvel had, inspiring him to start the Avengers initiative. Captain Marvel single-handedly took out a whole fleet of the Kree who threatened Earth, and she is going to be the difference between the Avengers winning and the Avengers losing. Fury called her right before he flew away into dust, and in the post-credit scene of Captain Marvel, we saw her meet the remaining Avengers. It will be very interesting to see her fight side by side with them in Endgame.
I like this one.
Fury meeting her all those years ago could have a huge impact on the outcome of Endgame's final fight.
He's my friend. So was I.
Captain America and Iron Man's fight. In Civil War, we saw Tony and Steve go head to head, and the aftermath of that fight had a lot of consequences. Before the Endgame trailer, we had not seen the two be together, or even talk, since Cap walked away after winning the fight in Civil War. Tony almost called him during Infinity War, but before he did, the attack on New York came. So ultimately it was Banner who picked up the phone to call Cap. In the Endgame trailer, we see a powerful moment where Tony asks Steve if he trusts him.
You trust me? I do.
We see the two shake hands and finally put their beef to rest. The reason why their fight will play a big part in Endgame is because it did nothing but make the two stronger. They're the leaders of the team, and if they're to win, they have to do it together.
Like the old man said. Together.
Without that fight in Civil War, I don't think that they would have been able to work together, because they've gone head to head many times, dating back to when they first met in 2012's Avengers.
Put on the suit. Let's go a few rounds.
Now that they've gone through all of that, they can now put it behind them and work together to bring Thanos down and bring their fallen friends back.
What's your name?
Gamora?
Thanos kills Gamora. One of my favorite scenes in Infinity War was Thanos killing his adopted daughter Gamora to get the Soul Stone. Thanos is told that in order to get the stone, he must lose that in which he loves. This made Gamora laugh, saying that he loved nothing and no one. We then see a shocking moment when Thanos turns around with tears in his eyes.
Really? Tears?
They're not for him.
Gamora then realizes that Thanos truly does love her. Thanos cries as he drags her to the cliff and throws her off, killing who he saw as his daughter. We later find out that after her death, he was in anguish and that he mourned.
He is in anguish.
Good.
He mourns.
What does this monster have to mourn?
Gamora.
After he snapped his fingers to wipe out half the universe, he saw a young Gamora in the same archway where he met her as a child. When she asked him what it cost, he said,
Everything.
Clearly showing that he lost more than he could have ever expected, and that Gamora meant everything to him. In my opinion, this is what's going to bring Thanos to his knees. He's going to give up for his daughter, the only person he ever loved. I predict that she's either going to come back, and seeing her will change his whole outlook on the fight that he's fighting, or the Avengers will use his memory of her as a weakness to defeat him. Either way, Thanos killing Gamora will have dire consequences for him in Endgame. Thanks so much for watching, guys. You can follow me on social media. Links for that will be in the description. And I want to give a huge shout out to all my Patrons listed below. If you want to be listed on my next video, plus a bunch of other rewards, check out my Patreon, which is linked down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you press that subscribe button to help grow the channel. Again, thank you so much for watching, and look out for more great videos on the way.